I'm Mike Sheridan, and this is The Delve. Hey, what's going on? You're very welcome along to another episode of The Delve with me, Mike Sheridan. My guest today is Adam McKay. Adam is a filmmaker. He was a head writer on Saturday Night Live for more than a few years. We talked about that off the bat. He also directed both Anchorman movies, directed Talladega Nights, directed Vice, directed The Big Short. His new movie is called Don't Look Up, and it has a genuinely insane cast. This is one of the best put together casts you're likely to see for at least a few years. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill, Kate Blanchett, Tyler Perry. It's an amazing cast. It's a very satirical movie. It's a very funny movie. And it's a big swing. We kind of talked about this like very early on as well. It's a really big swing, but I think Adam McKay is one of the most adept filmmakers at taking on this kind of satire. And Adam was one of those guys I wanted to speak to for a very long time. I've watched him in interviews for years, and he always just seems really open and really kind of up for talking about whatever in terms of his career. So Adam produces Succession as well, which is obviously a big deal. It's in the zeitgeist everywhere at the moment, and on a kind of on a more personal taste note, I suppose. Adam produced a show called Q Into the Storm that went out on HBO very early on this year. I saw it while I was in New York recently. The 6-part series. I don't even know if you can see it on this side of the world in Europe, but it is excellent. So we both geek out about that for a little while too. So this is an audio only conversation. So apologies if you're looking at my face now on YouTube and you're expecting to see Adam's face, but I really think it's a conversation worth listening to. Don't Look Up is on Netflix in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for it. Congratulations on the award. When is that going out, or when is that happening?
Such a shame. We had it all lined up. I mean, that's why I'm here in Dublin, but with the Omicron, we had to cancel it. So they're trying to set another date for it. So I'll be back.
Be back. You've been over here a bunch before, right? Was the last time you were over for Anchorman 2, or you were over for The Big Short?
I actually wrote Don't Look Up. We have a lake house out in Cavan.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was out there for about a month and wrote the script and was planning on coming back quite a bit more frequently. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And then, yes, I think you're correct. Before that, it was probably The Big Short, Anchorman 2. And then we come over here with family quite a bit. So even before I had the lake house, we have rented houses here before, been outside Galway, Connemara. We have friends here in Dublin. So we're here quite a bit.
I'm kind of wondering what it was about Cavan that, led to a script about the end of the world.
Well, it certainly wasn't that beautiful lake view. Oh my God, it's so pretty. No, the idea came. I would definitely have the idea in America. Yeah. Which, if you've been in America recently, you can see how that idea would pop up.
I really enjoyed the film. It's one of my favorites of the year, genuinely. And one of the first things I was going to say was it's a big swing. But then I listened to you do a podcast with The Ringer. It was the first thing the interviewer said to you. But it really does feel like a big swing because there's so much going on, and comedy is in such a strange place right now. Did it feel like a risk at all, even with the cast that you have here?
Definitely. I think the biggest risk was to make it a comedy, not to make it a wry satire. To actually have big laughs in it was tricky. Just because some people, are going to like that and some people aren't. It's just the way comedy works. So we, at a certain point when we were editing, we said, let's do it. Let's let it be a big comedy. And I felt like the movie really lit up at that point. But, comedy is so subjective. You also know you're going to lose certain people who prefer a drier satire. And then the ending, obviously, I won't give it away, but the ending was the biggest risk, knowing full well it's not a traditional ending. But oddly, that ended up playing well right from the beginning. We do test screenings, and audiences were quite into that. I don't know what it says about the world we live in right now. They actually had no problem with the ending. It always tested the highest in the movie. I first time it happened, I walked out with my editor and our producer, and it was like, wow, they didn't have any problem with that ending.
How worried do you have to be about being too close to the bone with something so satirical, like with the media stuff or with certain characters that, anybody watching it can kind of draw their own conclusions and, oh, he must mean it's this person, or this must be a version of that person from wherever show.
Yeah, I mean, we really tried to make all the characters a blend of different characters. We did it with the president. The president's, a little bit of W. Bush, a little bit of Bill Clinton, a little bit of Trump, a little bit of Reagan. We did it with the media. The Daily Rip, our fake show, is a little bit of Good Morning America, Morning Joe, Robin Meade, all those brightly lit morning shows where you just can't imagine them ever really telling you legitimately bad news just because of how it's designed. So, I don't think there's anyone directly. I guess the closest any character comes to being a real person is Jonah really wanted to do that 5 o'clock shadow like one of the Trump boys. So I guess that kind of indicates a little bit in that direction. But otherwise, no, everyone's kind of representing just forces and institutions.
I watched the premiere video of you introducing the cast. I think it was in New York. And it's like, it actually, I think you started laughing at some point just with the names that you're saying as you're greeting people that are coming down. Like, it's an incredible cast. Were you like, you must have been like delighted with obviously Leo coming on board. I know you had a few conversations with him before he like actually fully agreed to do the movie. So like, did you get everybody you wanted?
Yeah, we at a certain point, we had a bunch of great actors who had signed up for the movie, and we realized we were trying to reflect the spectacle of what it's like to be alive now. And there's so many bright colors and distractions. And we had all these other wonderful actors that were interested. And so at a certain point, we said, you know what, let's do it. Let's let them all into the movie. It kind of will make the movie feel a little bit like real life, in that we're constantly looking at celebrities' pictures and clicks. And then it didn't hurt that they're all wonderful actors. I mean, you're dealing with people like Timothée Chalamet and Himish Patel and Kate Blanchett, Tyler Perry. You have no complaints at that point. But we let it fly on this one. We definitely did. We let everyone in through the door and just tried to capture that feeling of what it's like to be alive right now in this crazy world. And hopefully audiences can share a laugh going, yeah, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. And part of that will be, there'll be some dark feelings as well, but hopefully just some good hard laughs at what a shook snow globe our reality is right now.
It's crazy because you mentioned laughter, and obviously you were a head writer on SNL for many a year. I know. So I was looking at you on set, Mario, saying you were a coordinator of falconry. You wanted to leave at some point, and you spoke to Lauren Michaels, and Lauren Michaels was like, "Look, it was your agent, was it? Your agent said to you, ask for something ridiculous, and you asked for was a coordinator of falconry."
Yeah, I was going to leave. I was head writer, and my manager said, "Well, if you're going to leave, make a ridiculous request." So I asked for a raise. I asked to get to make short films, and I asked to name my own credit. And he said yes. And then I said, okay, I want my credit to be coordinator of falconry. And then he was like, what the hell? So I was coordinator of falconry for 2 years on SNL.
I mean, when you look at where your career is now, and you met like the kind of spread of movies that you've made, and not to mention the stuff that you've produced, at any point when you were maybe early on in your career doing the comedy stuff or doing SNL, did you foresee this? Was this was this career that you have now, was it part of your wildest dreams? Was it even in there?
No, I don't think I ever. I mean, the joke I always tell is, and it's not a joke, it actually happened, was, the morning after the Academy Awards when we were lucky enough to win for Best Adapted Screenplay. I woke up with my wife and I just said, well, how the hell did that happen? So, no, the particulars of how it's happened have been surprising, but you could feel it at a certain point in the late 80s, 90s, that there was this swelling, media, film, television machine that was really getting gigantic. So, the typical thing with my parents where I said I wanted to do this for a living and they thought I was crazy. And then by the 1990s, I think even they could see like, oh, there actually is a lot of work in these fields. But then when it took the jump it took in the last 10 years with the streaming and the, double, triple the amount of movies and videos. And I never imagined it moving this fast as far as the podcasts. I mean, we produce podcasts as well. I love podcasts. The amount of different ways you can make material now is just jaw dropping.
I kind of started with movies, I think, in the 90s with Soderbergh and how he was able to do those movies. So, and even now he's shooting stuff on iPhones still, but like it's become so accessible, hasn't it? The digital age. And then, as you mentioned, the streaming.
Crazy. I had a friend of mine who wanted to make a movie and he was trying to figure it out. I said, well, just go shoot it on your phone. And I tell people that a lot. And this guy actually did. And the movie's going to be at a big festival in Mexico and it looks beautiful. And so it is a time like no other, access to the tools. I mean, God, in the 80s, if you could get your hands on a camera, it was crazy. It was like like some holy relic. Whereas now they're just everywhere. So, that's the part I never anticipated. I always knew I'd do something with this, whether it was writing or directing or performing or something with this. But the explosion of media, it's just, I don't know if anyone saw it coming.
Is that easier or harder for you then as a producer to pick stuff or to pick somebody to develop things with? Because, I mean, obviously you've got Succession, there's another series coming out on HBO next year. But one of my favorite series of this year, and I saw it in New York recently, was Q Into the Storm, which is an incredible 6-part documentary that's kind of flown a bit under the radar. So how do you choose? First of all, is it easier with the kind of influx of content that's there and creators that are there and directors and writers? And how do you choose what to produce?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on Q Into the Storm. Cullen Hoback, who created that show, came to us with the footage, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He went deep inside the belly of Q way before anyone was even talking about it. And the last episode of that series is one of the most incredible episodes I've ever seen, where he unmasked Q on camera. And
how is this not everywhere? How is this not like, I watched that and my jaw dropping. It's incredible.
I had the exact same response. And the funny thing was too, I think it just got one Emmy nomination for editing. It got kind of mixed reviews. And I was like, this is crazy. This is like one of the journalistic feats of the entire year. And I don't know. It was very strange, the reaction. It did get quite popular when it was airing. It was trending on Twitter. People did pick up on it. It got very good ratings. So that part of it played. But I still feel like the end of the year best of lists, I didn't see it on any of those. And I can say that because I'm a producer on the show, but Cullen Hoback made it. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's one of the most incredible projects we've ever worked on.
Like Cullen spent 3 years filming it. So to put that much time and like emotional effort too into making something like that, I'd say he's probably just delighted just to get it out there and, to kind of have the ending that I had, because you literally couldn't make that stuff up.
I mean, he sent over like a secret iPad to my house. And there was like a person out in a car. I had to like watch the footage and then hand it back. And it's if anyone hasn't seen it, it's it's really a jaw-dropping project, and he takes you into places no one else has ever been. And then the last episode is one of the great episodes of television I've ever seen.
And like, speaking of producing, we can't not talk about Succession to some degree. Like, obviously you directed the pilot as well. Like, did you foresee any of this? Like the theme tune, I think, is in everybody's head for the last week since the last episode. It's become this cultural phenomenon. Like it's a phenomenal series and people are obsessed with it. Did you foresee this? I mean, obviously there's talent there with Jesse Armstrong in the cast.
I mean, I knew it was, when I read the script and said I wanted to direct it, I knew it was really good. And when we shot it, and then I saw the first couple episodes roll in, I remember saying to some of our other producers, I think this is really good. Did I know it would become a sensation? No, you can never predict that. But I knew it was really good. And I knew it was one of my favorite things I'd been involved in. And when we put that cast together with Francine Maisler and with Jesse, the three of us really put it together. And you could really tell, oh, wow, this is like one of the best casts I've ever seen. And even Francine, who's cast every great movie and TV show you can think of, even she was like really quite happy with the way that one went down. So no, I love it. It's one of my favorite projects as well. And now I'm at a point where I get to just enjoy it because the writing staff and the directors and Jesse have just set sail. So I'll throw an idea or two in, but for the most part, I get to just sit back and watch it.
And when you're directing a pilot, when you're directing something like that like could conceivably go to series, I mean, how different do you approach it as opposed to a movie? And because I know you use a lot of improv, I know you'll shout stuff at the cast will try different things out. Is it different when you're shooting a pilot because it's something that could be serialized going forward?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's, you're doing about 4 or 5 things. You're setting that look for the show. You're obviously casting it. You're hoping to set the work pattern too, because once again, when it's a movie, you can sort of slash and burn a little bit more. Just, film it and go. But everything you're doing with a pilot has to be replicated. The show we just made, the Lakers show, it's called Winning Time, is one of the more unusual shows we've ever done. We mix multiple formats in 3-4 different cameras shooting. It's very unusual looking, I think beautiful looking show. Also, you're doing basketball. You have to have people looking tall. So you're using lifts, perspective. And that was the one where I finished the pilot and I kind of laughed and I was like, I feel bad for the directors that are coming after me. It's a very difficult show to shoot. And, but it's a testament to how talented those directors were. They pulled it off and they found the rhythm and they found the way to do it. It's I'm really excited for that to come out. That comes out in March.
The trailer for that is fantastic. And before I let you go, Adam, are you hopeful? Do you feel hopeful about it? I mean, obviously the movies, we won't go into the end or anything like that, but it's not a Hollywood ending per se. But are you hopeful as a person for the future?
Yes, I am. I mean, I always say we wouldn't have made the movie if we weren't hopeful, because obviously it's it's a big laugh, but it's also a cautionary tale. And if we really didn't have hope, I would have just gone and made Step Brothers 2 and had a blast and drank wine and laughed. But, we do have the science. We do. We have renewables. We have carbon removal. We have carbon capture. We're just missing that essential part, which is the awareness and the will to action. For some reason, we can't seem to get those two parts going. But it's going to happen at a certain point. I just hope it's sooner rather than later. But yeah, no, I am hopeful. Science, I mean, how fast they developed that vaccine. Science is incredible. It's a straight up superpower. So, I wish they would just get on the stick right now. I just don't know what we're waiting for.
Well, Adam, look, thanks so much for the time. Hopefully get to see it in person at some stage in Dublin or even in Cavan in the future.
I love it. My pleasure talking with you.
Take care, Adam. Bye-bye.